because of your brief overview of modern economic history there, I thought I'd take the occasion to ask you a question I've actually wanted to ask you for quite a while, which is the basic question: is there a possibility that Karl Marx was simply ahead of his time? Communism originally was seen as an international movement, and
Yes.
it required, with globalization, you see the possibility of, societies, whether they're poor or not, having developed economies, which would be essential for that kind of classical communist revolution.
Right.
Maybe Karl Marx was just ahead of his time, and with globalization, we're getting to that point.
Well, to some extent. I mean, Marx published Kapital in, as I recall, 1848, and which then even led to a correspondence between Abraham Lincoln and Karl Marx. Those letters have recently been published as a book. I've read both Kapital and the Communist Manifesto, or I've read a good chunk of Kapital. It's hard, it's dense reading, but my personal opinion is that, and of course the manifesto was as much Engels as it was Marx. My personal take on it is that Karl Marx's critique of capitalism is absolutely spot on, and reading Kapital should be required as part of Econ 101, and frankly it was for most of the last century in most economics classes because of his critique of capitalism. His solution to the problem of capitalism, I don't think it's ever been really well tried, but I don't. But that said, it was perverted by the USSR and by China and whatnot. But I don't think that it's the optimal solution. I think better solutions are things like worker-owned co-ops and things like that. You can get rid of capitalism and capitalists, or minimize it, set it to the side, and build a thriving economy that still has ownership. Rather than the state owning everything, you can have the employees of every individual company own everything. But Marx didn't discuss, he did discuss manufacturing, but he didn't discuss it in this macro trade concept that I'm talking about, at least to the best of my knowledge. Maybe he did, and I just missed it. But, I think he was ahead of his time. He was ahead of his time in that the Industrial Revolution provided all these mind-boggling opportunities for massive aggregations of capital through the process, by and large, of monopoly, which is what John Rockefeller and Andrew Carnegie and Jay Gould and all these other guys were doing back in the late 19th and early 20th century. And Marx's writings informed people like Teddy Roosevelt and President Taft, two Republican presidents who looked at the horrors of capital, aggregated capital. In fact, Grover Cleveland called it out in his 1888 or 1886 State of the Union address. He said, corporations, which should be the servants of the people, have become the people's masters. So, yeah, I'm with you, Matt. Somebody needs to write somebody needs to take Kapital, Marx's first book, and write a comic book version of it. I have a book out called We the People. And it's a comic book, it's like illustrated, but it's straightforward. We need to do that with Kapital.